Hey
We can
Jack, my
talk.
name's
Hey, what's up, man? How you
what's
doing?
happening, man? Good.
Hey,
How are
Jay.
you?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. Thanks for talking to me today, bud.
Anytime. My name's James Masella from Movie Deathos. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today to talk about Day of the Fight, which I keep calling Night of the Fight for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's a
Either
boxing fan.
way, night of the fight, fight of the day, it's all the same, brother. That's what it's been.
I've been a huge fan of boxing for years. It's been involved in my family for years. I think I can tell just by watching this movie that Jack Houston is a big fan of boxing at some point. So, who's your
Absolutely.
what's your favorite fight? Who's your favorite fighter of choice from any time?
It's so funny. I mean, I go all the way back, like when I was younger and watching it, but like, you can never discount obviously the greats, but I mean, I was from the time of like Lennox Lewis and Chris Eubank and all those guys going in the UK boxers. Um, I mean, you can never discount what Tyson did back in the day. I mean, probably what like the all-time greats. I mean, more recently, I remember Manny Pacquiao was a big one, and obviously Michael trained in the Wildcard gym. So he was there going at it. My grandfather John was the West Coast champion of America boxer when he was in youth. So we've had it in the family for a long time.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
information for me to remember now. Not to make a pun out of this, but you kind of are the jack of all trades when it comes to Day of the Fight. You're the director, the writer, the producer. Was there ever a time you were like, "I'm going to star in this movie as well," or was it always Michael to play Mike Flanagan?
It was always Michael. I mean, literally, it's so funny. When I conceived the story, I literally thought about it with Michael in place. That was in my head. It was like ingrained in there. I wrote every word when I was writing the script with his voice in my head. So the idea of me being in it at any point, like I always say it's funny because I really I get completely consumed when I'm doing a character or I'm acting, and I thought in this one, if I was even to do a supporting character day piece, it would be all consuming, and I wanted to be so available to all the actors and all the crew and everybody around me that I was very happy to be firmly rooted just behind the camera.
I've got to say, I was a huge fan of Boardwalk Empire. Richard Harrow is one of my favorite, most underrated characters ever on TV. And
Thank
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask because you've got Steve Buscemi in this movie, you've got Anatole Yusuf, you've got Michael Pitt. From what's it like reuniting with these guys 10 years later to do your own thing together?
Oh, dude. And by the way, behind the camera, we had so many of the crew from Boardwalk. They were so great. Everybody showed up at a fraction of their pay and really just came together and helped support me and this film. It's great because there's a familiarity, there's a trust that's already built in. This entire film is about the sort of human condition. It's about relationships. It's about those interactions. So it's a very personal story for me, and I needed. My grandfather always used to say 90% of making a movie is casting, and now I understand just how true those words are because this film isn't this film without all of those actors and the others, Joe Pesci and Ron Perlman, Nicolette Robinson and John McGarr. Every single one of these guys built this film. I pretty much wrote it for them. So if I lost any of them, I mean, Michael, obviously, particularly, um, it wouldn't have been the same movie. I almost feel like I couldn't have made it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, one of my favorite parts of the movie was Nicolette singing. Have you ever seen The Rain by John Fogerty? How did you go about picking that song for her to perform? Was she like, "I'm going to do this," or were you like, "Hey, can you sing this?"
You know what? That one of the I wrote it in the script. I heard a Willie Nelson version of Have You Ever Seen the Rain that he sung with his daughter, and they did a duet. It's really beautiful, right slowed down, if you can imagine Willie Nelson. And then I thought about, well, imagine playing that almost as a ballad on a top note and just something, because I was trying to find a song that would have existed back when their daughter was a child, back in the early 70s. Sorry, not early, late 70s, because it's 89, the present, and it goes back to when she was a kid, so sort of like mid to late 70s, and something that I can imagine a singer sort of singing to a child. And I just heard that Willie Nelson, it broke my heart. And I just thought, yeah, but I mean, Nicolette truly does have a voice like an angel, like absolutely beautiful. She's married to the amazing Leslie Odom Jr., and we went into the studio all together and recorded it. And it was one of those moments because we recorded the song before I even started shooting the film. So I was like, oh my God, man, I've got this, that's the song I fucking imagined. I was like, it was a great moment. I'm so glad you loved it because I'm very proud of what we did with that song.
Yeah, I just wasn't expecting to hear that in a movie about boxing and everything this movie's about. But I mean, it definitely fit. And we're talking about boxing movies. Day of the Fight is filmed in black and white. You've got Joe Pesci in it. You see any parallels to Raging Bull at that point? Another boxing movie told from that perspective?
No, you know what I don't, and it's so funny. I didn't even think about it when we are doing it. The reason I got Pesci in the movie is because of his voice. Because if you didn't know that song that he puts on, that's really Joe Pesci singing. He's a world-class singer. He's a jazz musician. His first love, he used to sing with Frankie Valli back in the Four Seasons.
Yeah, back in the day.
I mean, unbelievable. So when I heard Joe's voice, I was also writing the part for the actor who's suffering, the father to be suffering from dementia. And I always remembered my gran when she was suffering from, early onset dementia. Music was a way of bringing her back in the room, and she'd have these moments of lucidity. So when I thought about Joe, I needed somebody who had like their character, their personality almost precedes them, because when you find them, they're a shadow of their former self. And he doesn't necessarily have to speak, but you hear him sing. So the film's very musical. And the two people who I distinctly did write it for, like as in page one, right, were Michael and Joe as father and son. And they sort of became the hook. And the film wouldn't have got made or financed if Joe hadn't signed on. And as you probably know, landing Joe Pesci, he says yes to a movie like once every 8 to 10 years, was like landing the white whale. It was a whole reason this film got made.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Joe's not in very many things these days, or when he is, it's going to be good.
It's the
Uh,
greatest. It's the
la-
greatest.
last question before we wrap up, Jack. I was trying to listen to who did the play-by-play for the fight at the end of the movie. I was like, it sounded like Jim Lampley, but I couldn't tell who was doing it. I couldn't find any information on it. So who was doing the voiceover for the
Oh my God, you're going to put me on the spot right now. No, don't do it, because I'm forgetting he's just phenomenal. Um, oh God. Oh no, that's awful. I feel so disappointed in myself.
I'll make sure to cut this part out of
Just so you
it.
know, the reason being, I did the entire fight and edited the fight and got it together, and then did all of that in post production because I didn't want them to fight to a certain way. I wanted to orchestrate the fight perfectly and then do it as if a real announcer. And I did that in 2 sessions, but I said you got to watch it like a real boxing match and comment as if you're watching a real boxing match.
It definitely felt that way. It sounded like Jim Lampley from back in the day. I was just curious.
It
But
might be though. I'm gonna be no. I mean, like I might. It might be Jim. He's a wonderful commentator though. Beautiful.
100%.
And
But
I hope I'm gonna get killed for that. I'm so sorry, man. I feel awful.
I'll look it up later. We'll figure it out. But
Hey,
I appreciate your time, Jack. I can't wait for everybody to see Day of the
thank you
Fight when it comes
so
out.
much. Thank
It,
you. It
it's
means a lot.
it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Take her easy, matey.
You too.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.